I like to bring a little bit of holistic side of things into the marketing. And then from a yoga point of view, I like to bring some of my clients to class just to give them that space to kind of reduce burnout, reduce stress, and just do something for them. I am working on a hair care brand from Lebanon at the moment, which is
I'm half Lebanese.
I didn't know that.
That's weird.
Which I've only reflected on really since speaking to you was I have worked hard.
And that whole hustle culture, I'm so glad that that's slowly fading, isn't it? I think more and more people are like, that's not good. That's not healthy. How do you, if you balance the whole mum life?
It's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it.
You have to make those conscious decisions to do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise it just gets carried away.
And life just runs away with you before you know it. It's 6 months down the line, you're thinking, when did we actually spend quality time together?
Quality time.
The time that I had completely by myself in isolation taught me so much, and that's I think kind of my journey of where I am today. I was in a hole. I'm not afraid to say that. But I started to get really bad intrusive thoughts when in the real depths of it. And that was the point where I went, nope, this is not, I'm not letting this happen. We need to get support.
Everyone, welcome to my podcast. You are tuned in to Real Talk with Nat. I'm your podcast host, Natalie Naman, and we have a fabulous guest here with us today, Lauren Troiano.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm so good.
Good.
So we recently had you on as part of our International Women's Day special episode, which was incredible.
It was, and it was with Danny as well. Unfortunately, Georgia couldn't make it, but it was with Danny, and she was just great. I really enjoy working with her, and she's such a fabulous individual. She has her own wellbeing business, but also she does so much more. She's extra, she's always after the next thing. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. And that conversation that we had for both of you, obviously I follow you guys on social media. I know you a little bit better than I knew Danny. Yeah. But it's so lovely to have conversations with you and just figure out that depth. Yeah. Obviously we spoke more about business specifically. Today's episode is going to be a little bit more about you, personal life, Lauren life. Yeah. So do you want to give another little introduction in case anyone hasn't seen the previous episode? Let people know a little bit more about who you are and where you're from.
Sure. So my name is Lauren, and I'm the founder of two businesses, the Little Marketing Co and the Little Yoga Co. Two completely different but also intertwined, which I'm sure we'll go into in a little bit. I'm a mum of a little boy called Archie with my partner Tom. He is 19 months old, so still quite relatively new mum. And I started the Marketing Co, which is my main business now, whilst I was on maternity leave. Which was quite a journey, but one that I'm really pleased that I took, and I'm here today. So with the marketing side of things, I support small businesses with their marketing, whether that be strategy, branding, social media, websites, that kind of thing. Just give them a bit of confidence in what they're doing and how they're talking and how they're selling. Yeah. And then the yoga side of things, I teach 2 back-to-back classes, one Sunday a month at Birth Studios, and that's just a really relaxing and restorative practice. We don't get off the floor. It's a really lovely soundtrack. It's just really chilled. And you can kind of, between the two, I like to bring a little bit of holistic side of things into the marketing. Yeah. And then from a yoga point of view, I like to bring some of my clients to class just to give them that space to kind of reduce burnout, reduce stress, and just do something for them.
Amazing. And I love the consistency that you've got with your branding. This is something we didn't talk about in the business episode, which I'm now like, I'd love to talk about that.
Sure.
Talk about your branding. Yeah,
sure.
The Little something Co.
So started back, I've got to think now, so 2022. Yeah. Starting off with a bit of a sad story, I'm afraid. Okay. So I had a miscarriage. So Tom and I, my partner, were trying for a baby. Okay. It just had a miscarriage, unfortunately. I was pregnant in the June, had a miscarriage in July. I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you. We went to France for a family holiday, get everything out of our system, eat all the cheese, drink all the wine, like have a really nice time just to completely relax after obviously quite a traumatic experience. Yeah. And I'd just gained my yoga qualification. Okay. I was in a corporate job at the time, 9 to 5. So I wanted to do my yoga qualification and use it. So I started the Little Yoga Co. But I couldn't find a name. Classic. I'm working marketing. I should know what to call my business. I should know what to brand it. I had no idea. Yeah. And then Tom and I took a walk. We were talking about kind of what happened, unpacking quite a lot of it. And he was like, well, you're little. I'm only 5 foot for listeners. Yeah. He was like, you don't want the business to be huge because you've got your corporate job.
Uh-huh.
I did my yoga qualification as a bit of a backup, really. So we knew we wanted to start a family quite early in our relationship. And it was super important to us, a priority for us. And so I did my yoga qualification thinking, how am I going to juggle corporate life and being a mum? Maybe I want to do something else. So I did my yoga qualification. And so little, I would have had a baby hopefully by that time. So it kind of all intertwined. So Tom, actually, thank you, Tom Horton. He said, why don't you call it the Little Yoga Co? I was like, genius.
Yeah.
He actually comes up with a lot of my ideas. I need to give him more credit.
Right, we won't tell people that. It's all you.
Thank you. Behind every great woman is a great man.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, definitely. So he was like, why not? I was like, yes, this is great.
Yeah.
And in my corporate job, I worked with a designer called Marcus, and he just gets me. I'd known him my whole time. I'd been at the business, which was about 7 years at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I've had this idea. My colours are soft pink and kind of a brown. I gave him the brief of being feminine because it's very much me and my energy, and then brown from a grounding point of view. Nice. And I just gave him the name and the colours, and he was like, well, keep it simple. Let's not make it complex. Let's just literally say what it does on the tin. Yeah. So that was how the Little Yoga Co came about. That. Then I had my son Archie and was looking to start marketing as a freelancer. Again, went through the same conversation. Oh, God's sake, what am I going to name it? So important. What am I going to brand it? And Tom was like, hello, you have a business. Why didn't you just do the same?
Yes.
But change marketing? And I thought, actually, from a marketing point of view, Tom does not have a marketing background, but the consistency of the two is great.
Brilliant.
Because it's the same thing and people then interchange and know who I am.
Yeah.
I'd already got quite a good following with the Little Yoga Co. So I thought, actually, it makes sense. And so I went to Marcus again and said, look, I'm going to call it the same thing, just interchange the word yoga for marketing. You choose colours for me, go crazy, give me a few colours to work with because I trust him massively as a designer. Yeah. And then again, came up with my branding. There it is.
And that consistency is so important because I remember I didn't even know you were doing the marketing stuff, and I saw the Little Marketing Co. And I went,
hang on a minute.
Is that Lauren?
What's she doing now?
And I actually then went to your profile. I never told you this. I went to your profile and saw to check if it was you. And it was you. So I love that. I think it's such a good idea. Yeah. But my question for you is, Tom said for the yoga company that it wasn't going to be a big business.
No.
So you're going to have to change it to the big marketing co at this rate.
I did have a client the other day, and I think it was Carl actually. Shout out Carl
again.
I think it was Carl, and he was like, "You're gonna have to change your name. It's not little anymore," which is lovely. But it was more to represent me as a person because I meet a lot of my clients face to face, and so they can kind of resonate with, especially if meeting for the first time. If you don't know what someone looks like, it's like, oh, where is she? But little and and I just liked it because then I knew my aim for the marketing company would always be to work with small independent businesses.
Yes,
and so actually I feel it reflects that too.
Yeah.
The little was going to be a little side hustle with yoga, which it still is. And I'm still very grateful, but it's not the main business at all. Marketing definitely is. But I knew that I wanted to support small independents. That was my passion. Yeah. And so rather than change it to the small marketing, I thought, keep the consistency there. Keep it nice and easy. So thank you, Tom, for naming my business.
That's brilliant. And it also gives you scope for if you were to create anything else business-wise, you can continue that branding as you go.
Yeah, brand consistency from a marketing point of view is really important, and people often have multiple businesses and multiple accounts, and I do completely. There's room for it if they're completely different, but I think if it's you and your businesses, then actually if they have similarities or they look similar, like you said, you go, oh, is that Lauren? Actually it is.
I knew before I knew.
Yeah.
Love that. Go on, Tom.
I know.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Tom.
That's brilliant. So let's go back to your childhood. What was life like for you as a child? All those school days and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So I loved school. I know not lots of people don't get on with it, but I did. I had nice friendship circles. I enjoyed what I did. I enjoyed learning. I've always been very creative, which stems from my mum. She's super creative, sewing, crochet, knitting, art, puzzles, you name it. I was always doing that growing up. And then my grandma as well, she used to write poems quite a lot. So I can kind of see, I did a bit of reflection work recently about kind of reflecting since I've had Archie, you know, I want to instill creativity in him, and it's like, how do I do that? So I started to explore, and then I found a poem that is on a typewrite. It's the original from my grandma. It's on my wall, and I thought, wow, actually grandma was creative, so therefore my mum's now creative, and then that's passed on to me, and I'd like to pass that on to Archie. So I was always really kind of creative. From a movement perspective, I did dance very early on, which I have a lot of people to thank for. I won't go into them, but I think that kind of instilled confidence within me. So performing, you know, that kind of space, feeling happy to do that, happy to be in front of a camera, you know, and things like that.
You're natural. You're very natural.
Thank you. That stems from performing arts, dance, that kind of thing. I did do yoga at school, very grateful to do that. So that's kind of where I got into yoga as a kind of passion and as a hobby. But movement's always been really important to me too. I had a great childhood. I'm a single child. Only child, single child.
Single child. Yeah. As you said that, I went,
not afraid. An only child.
Yeah.
My mum and dad, it's an important part of the story. My mum and dad really struggled to conceive. So found it really, 11 years in the end.
Wow.
So they met at 19, met at 16, married at 19.
Okay.
My mum didn't have me until she was 32, 33.
11 years, that's a long time.
Long time. And in the end, my mum, IVF, everything didn't work, unfortunately. My mum just said, look, it's been a long time, very emotional process. And I just, it's not for us. It's not part of our story. And then literally fell pregnant with me.
Isn't that how it happens?
Isn't it how it happens? Yep.
Let go of that need and want, desperate want for something.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So I guess that was kind of, it was talked about a lot in my childhood, but on reflection of having Archie, I said earlier, Tom and I had only been together about 1.5 years, and we decided we'd like to try for children. But it's a conversation we had very early on. And I always had, I mean, there's a lot more things, even in 1.5 years, kind of 2 years, moving on, there's a lot more like fertility and those kind of tests and things you can do. But I always had it in the back of my mind, well, my mum struggled for so long. Is it hereditary? I don't know. I had medical insurance at the time in my corporate job, but it's not something they tested for. It's not something they covered. So it was always the unknown. So I think that's why potentially Tom's a little bit older as well, but family was important to us. It was one of our top values when we met. So I think that's why, I wouldn't say I'm a young mum, but I had Archie when I was 31. I just turned 31.
How old are you now? 33?
33. Yeah. No, I'm not yet. That's a lie.
Are you not?
Am I? I'm looking at Carl like he knows maths. He's struggling.
I forget my age all the time.
I was born in 92. I'll be 33 this year. There we go.
When's your birthday?
June.
Okay.
So Archie was born 5 days after my birthday, so I always get confused as to where I am. So I enjoyed school. I was always creative, as I said, always had dance in the background. I went to university and did a music degree, music management. Right. So I always enjoyed performing arts, always enjoyed music. I wanted to do music tech, which is what I did at A-level. But my tutor at the time was like, no, you are too social for that. You're going to be in a room by yourself all day, all hours of the day. It's not for you. You need to do something else. I kind of twisted my opinion on things, and I'm really glad I took his advice because I ended up basically doing a business and marketing degree.
Okay.
But it was called music management. Yeah. But a lot of it was about branding, PR, working with artists to get their exposure. So I got so much from that from a marketing point of view. Yeah. And then I went on to work for the university I went to because I loved it so much.
Okay. What uni did you go to?
Buxton University. It's in High Wycombe. Yeah. I worked for their students' union for a couple of years, trying to get students involved. So student involvement in community volunteering, charitable fundraising. Yeah. But what I ended up doing was marketing because I had to get the students to want to volunteer. Yeah. Who wants to do that? Yeah. You've been on a massive night out. Why do you want to go and help some elderly people in a care home?
Yeah. Was that a challenge?
A huge challenge. And that's where I think my creativity really supported that journey. So I'd work with students. I'd kind of find problems. So I'd say, right, to students, what do you need? I need work experience. I need to put something on my CV. I need something in my field. I need industry experience. Well, unless you're in London, it's quite difficult. You're also fighting thousands of people. So I'd work creatively with the communities we were working with. So take the elderly home, for example. We were a creative university. So one of the courses was fashion design. Amazing. Loved going up to that department. Yeah. Phenomenal. I can fabric imagine, everywhere, colours, paint, the lot. So I worked with an elderly home, and a lot of the patients there had dementia. And it was a tough one. We'd get the rugby boys to go in for an afternoon and serve them tea, lovely, but it wasn't super inspiring. It was just a one-off, and they'd do it to kind of, it was an afternoon, it wasn't a long-term thing, but I wanted to create a long-term relationship with the care home.
Yeah.
And got speaking to Denise, the activities coordinator, and she said, we've got ladies here from the 40s and the 50s, and it's not like the 20 at the time, like the 20s, like, and how can we connect with them again? Because around the time there was a documentary on Channel 4 about music and intergenerational care, bringing children into homes and bringing music that they remembered from previous years of their life and actually sparking something in their memory to get them back. So I thought, okay, so I went away and I thought,
music's a big thing, isn't it? Like that,
huge,
so much can be done with that.
Yeah, I thought, right, what can we do here? And then I just went and spent some time there just to see what could kind of come from it. And I got talking to a lady, and she had all her photographs out. Her family were coming that afternoon, and she liked to reflect and look back. I think although she had dementia, it wasn't quite so severe, so she knew what to do to kind of get those memories back.
Okay.
And so she was looking and reflecting. She said, this is my wedding day. Gosh, look at my dress. Isn't it beautiful? I thought, here we go. This is what we do.
Yeah.
So I went straight to the head of fashion and I said, let's make this a thing. Wow. We're going to get your students to go into the care home, have a one-to-one with the patients in a community setting, all safe.
Yeah.
And then the students are going to recreate their garments from previous years.
Oh my god,
the most special project I've ever worked on.
That's makes me feel a bit emotional.
Yeah, I'm emotional thinking about it. Wow. So the students went in and spent one-to-one time and looked through all their photographs, and they asked the resident, out of all these clothes, what's your favorite?
Yeah.
They'd say, here. Some of them had patterns because they'd made the clothes themselves years ago and they'd kept them. Wow. So some of the girls had actual patterns to be able to work with. Some of the girls had to think outside the box.
Yeah.
One of them was a wedding dress. Oh God, I got to make a wedding dress. God. But they spent time with the residents, talking to them about it, their families then got involved. Yeah. I've got this picture of mum from a different, you're looking at one-dimensional photo. I need to see the back of the dress. What was it like? Describe it to me. So they were jogging their memories constantly.
That's amazing.
It was a really, really beautiful project, which then culminated in a fashion show. Oh my gosh. I know I'm gonna cry.
I feel like have you got any like photos and stuff?
I say it was so long ago. It's like 2013. Yeah. So social media was a thing, but it wasn't massively, and it was, we didn't think about documenting it particularly. But yeah, we held a fashion show, and a lot of the staff from the university came over, and the residents wore if they felt comfortable to. Yeah. If they didn't, some of their family members did as well.
Oh,
but
wow.
all the family came down, and it was an amazing experience for the students as much as it was for the people in the home. Yeah. Because their memories did improve, and they were, the carers would say, oh my gosh, Michelle remembered this today and she's never spoken to me about that before, so
that's amazing.
Really, really beautiful projects that I worked on. I forget where we are now. I forget how this started, but talking about
uni and
university. Yeah. So that's really where I then went, I think marketing is for me, actually. Yeah. I didn't do a strict marketing degree, but I've always had that level of creativity and thinking outside the box and trying to provide different opportunities for people and pulling people together.
Yeah. I mean, having that thought process isn't probably something like to go and have that conversation and then go, that's what we're going to do from what she said. Like that takes a certain thing in your brain, which not many people will have.
And, the people I'd volunteered a lot at university, but it was more kind of conservation projects and chopping down trees in woods. And, it was lovely stuff, and I got loads from it. But I saw a need, more of a demand for student experience and needing to get into the industry or to work on a project outside of uni where they were giving something back. That was the difference for me. You could go to, I don't know, Elle magazine, you could go to wherever in London, but actually working on a real community project like that was something that I hope the students would have taken with them. But they got real life experience because they're not models who are 6 foot tall and nothing. Yeah. Working with real women. So it was a real difference for them to work with a different type of clientele that they were used to as well.
I'm starting to understand why you're so successful.
Thank you.
Because pretty much every conversation we've had today, today and in the last episode, it's very evident that one of your biggest focuses is literally serving other people and helping other people and genuinely wanting to do that. Yeah. And success will always follow that when you're not going in with that intention. Do you know what I mean? You're going in with the intention of, I just want to help you. Yeah. I want to help this person. I want to help that person, give you the experience, do this, do that. And now I'm like, I'm understanding a little bit more now.
Thank you.
I love that.
I think I've kind of known that throughout my life and it's come from my family. They love to help people. And I've met Tom, my partner, who is absolutely the same. He's there yesterday at the photo shoot we had with the women.
Taking the photos.
And he was taking photos. He had someone's baby he'd never met before. He just loves to serve. And it's never from a like, look at me, I'm doing all these things. And I think that's why our values match so well, is because we both just want to help people. And it's lovely that I've got to a position where I can have a business, which obviously financially supports me, but it's not the be all and end all at the end of the day. I love seeing people take what they need from me and then go on to do great things. That's ultimately what I want. And I thought yoga was that route. That's why I did the qualification. It's a very serving industry.
Massively.
It's still a little part of my life, but marketing and supporting, that's why it was the small businesses. I work with 2 slightly bigger businesses, but they're in their infant stage, so they're still very small at the moment with growth plans. But my main passion is to support small independent businesses.
Amazing. Do you work with people all over the place?
So just Bedfordshire mainly. I do have one client in Manchester very randomly.
So random.
Someone shared me on Instagram and then she got in touch with me, which was really nice. So that was a recommendation. And I work with a client in Edinburgh. So Kate, I went to university with her. So I have 2. I am working on a hair care brand from Lebanon at the moment, which is
I'm half Lebanese.
I didn't know that.
That's weird.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
Oh my God. Are you?
Yeah. So she's launching a hair care. Well, she's about to. I can't talk.
Yeah.
She can't talk about it at all.
Okay.
The lady in particular.
We'll talk about it after.
To be fair, by the time this goes out, it will be live.
Yeah.
The social media channels are live. So I can talk about it a little bit.
Have you ever been to Lebanon?
But no.
Right.
Every time I meet her,
we'll
I'm like,
go to Lebanon.
I'd love to.
Yeah. I've got family there.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow.
So she's a hair care brand that's launching in the UK. So she's international, but mainly small independent businesses from Bedford.
Yeah.
Because it's so well connected.
Are you from Bedford?
Yeah.
Born and bred?
Born and bred.
Yeah.
Little hiatus to university, came back.
Yeah. When you said High Wycombe, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Were you from Bedford? But born and bred in Bedford.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. I feel like I'm learning so much about you. I love that. So I know that growth and personal development and, all things bettering yourself is a big part of your life. Through your journey, that's very evident. Has there been or was there a pivotal moment where that kind of growth stemmed from in your journey?
I think I've always been very self-aware, especially from a yoga point of view and doing yoga so young. That's kind of, the mindfulness, the wellness, always being aware. I've always worked hard, but always with that hint of, okay, but you've got to realize that you've got to do something that serves you as well. Yeah. And like we talked about on the previous episode. Yeah. I think my granddad would always say, I can hear him in my head now, so I can't not talk about it. My nonno, he'd always say, top of the class.
Really?
Top of the class. He had good English, but his phrase every week when I saw him, you got to be top of the class. You got to be top of the class. No, I wasn't top of the class, but he knew that. I didn't know that at the time as a child. So I am. Yeah. I wasn't top. Yeah. I was near the top. I was never. Yeah. I've never been super academic, being completely honest. But I'm okay with that because I found my other areas in my life with creativity, with dance, drama, so on and so forth. That's where it was. But what it instilled in me from a young age, which I've only reflected on really since speaking to you, was I have worked hard. Yeah. Because I knew I'd never be top of the class. But I knew if I worked hard, I'd be okay. Yeah. And it was always that comfort of him saying, you've got to work hard. You've got, my dad was the same. My dad worked extremely hard and was always kind of grafting. And so I think I've got that graft from the masculine side of the family.
It's the same with me.
Yeah. But then with the creativities come the female side of the family. So it's really interesting. Yeah. I kind of have only reflected on that just now. Yeah. But he always said, work hard, work hard, work hard. So that's always been within me. But then from a personal point of view and dance and wellbeing and yoga, I know that I can't just work super hard because I won't be super productive and burn out and all those things that can happen from it. So I have from a personal development point of view, I've always realized that actually I do need to take those breaks and I do need to do something for me and reset the mind. So I've always had a wellness mindset, but then kind of paired with this get up and go and grit.
And it's such a fine line, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And I think a common topic, which I've spoken about in previous episodes, is that whole hustle culture. We're of a similar age. So you would have experienced that as well. I'm 35, nearly 36. I'm always thinking, am I 35? Yeah, I'm 35. But that hustle culture, we grew up with that. So we grew up with, you know, if you don't graft, you won't be successful. And if you sleep later than a certain amount of time, you won't be successful. If you watch TV, you won't be successful. And I don't want to repeat myself too much because I've discussed that before, but I think it is so important to forget about that. And yes, you do need to work hard 100%, but you need to have time for you to rest, to reset, to refocus, whatever that looks like for you. And like we spoke about in the previous episode, that will always come back in a positive way. And that whole hustle culture, I'm so glad that that's slowly fading, isn't it? I think more and more people are like, that's not good. That's not healthy. And as a mum as well, that's something which I want to really talk about actually. Sure. How do you, if you balance the whole mum life? I know you had some big issues with Archie sleeping when he was younger. Up until not that long ago.
2 months ago.
Last week. But how do you deal with that? Not just from a business perspective, but just in general, like looking after yourself and that balance, if there is one.
It's really fucking hard. There's no other way to put it. But I knew that I wanted to work hours that would work around Arch. Very lucky. He goes to a gorgeous nursery. He adores it. Just runs in. Like, honestly, it's the dream scenario.
That's amazing.
So I know that he has the best day ever. But I finish at 2:30.
Okay.
Pick him up. We have afternoons together. So I work every day and he's in childcare in one way or another, but either with grandparents or at nursery. But I know that when it gets to 2:00, it's like, right, I need to wind down business now in order to get into mum mode. Because you do have to flip. It's so hard. Especially yesterday, we had such an amazing event. All of a sudden it got to 2 and I was like, I need to just not remember that I just did this amazing thing and then just be a mum for a minute. Like it is a flick of a switch, and you'll always have stuff in the back of your mind, but it's difficult to balance. Sleep deprivation I was in a hole. I'm not afraid to say that. Until I found a sleep coach that I wanted to work with, and she's honestly genuinely changed my life. I don't mind. I've not said this out loud publicly. I have to Tom. But I started to get really bad intrusive thoughts when in the real depths of it. And that was the point where I went, nope, this is not, I'm not letting this happen. We need to get support. I don't know why I didn't get support until then. It just
but sometimes we don't.
Occur to me. It wasn't, I was, I didn't want to say, I'm resilient. You can't be resilient when you're running on 2 hours sleep for 16 months of your life. It doesn't happen.
No, there comes a point where you go, no, I need to sort this out.
I was like, I need to sort this out. So very
good for you for recognizing that.
Yeah, thank you. Very grateful. Very, just super thankful for Gemma and Archie's now. He's always wonderful, but because he's getting sleep now, he's so much happier.
He's even more wonderful.
So lovely. Yeah, exactly. But it's hard to find the balance. I knew I wanted both family and business life. I didn't know what that looked like, but I just leapt into it. I wanted to stop at 2:30 so I could spend afternoons with him.
Do you so what does your schedule look like?
So I work 9 till 2:30.
And when you say day. That, is that, do you have meetings lined up? Is that with clients?
Yeah, mainly with clients. And then, as you know, it doesn't stop. So, for example, on a Tuesday, Tom goes to rugby and Archie goes to sleep at 6:30. Thank you, Gemma, again. Sleep at 6:30.
Brilliant.
I've got 3 hours where I can work. So it's never completely set in stone, but those are the hours I say to clients that I am free. Obviously on occasion like today, we can sort it out. It's not a problem. But I like to have that balance because I get time with him before he goes to bed. So I know some people traditionally work like 3 days a week and have 2 full days. I like to have every day because clients want to see me, which is lovely. And kind of it's not just on set days. I have every day available to them, just at certain times. It can be difficult to juggle it all, social life, family, everything, but we seem to be in a good flow, especially now with sleep. We seem to be in a good flow of business, not burnout as well, which we can discuss. And just finding a way to make it all happen. I think, and Georgia said this on her podcast, it's and we talk about it frequently, is that moment of going, cool, when Archie goes to school and they say, what do your mum and dad do? And he's like, well, my mum runs a marketing business. And she's a yoga teacher. And my dad runs a rugby club and he's a CrossFit trainer. It's like, people will go, what? Are you sure? Cool. Like what? Yeah. And that's what I thrive off. You know, I think, God, he must feel so proud and sees me at work, you know, and sees me doing things, and you know, when he's old enough, come to some stuff, and that's nice to know that he knows what I will do in quite a lot of depth, because I'll be able to bring him on that journey with me as well, which sometimes corporate life doesn't allow. Offer.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah. I love that. And it's so important to have that why, isn't it? And that's going to be different for everyone. But I think when you do have a child, that's always going to be such a big thing.
It's a big change.
Yeah, massively a big change. So how do you, I want to talk about socializing a little bit, like social life, because we spoke about, when I saw you today, we spoke about your social battery after that big event that you did, you know, social battery gone.
Depleted.
And I think I've never really thought about it until recently, but anything that people like us do, we work in different industries, but entrepreneurs, whatever, when you're working with people on any level, that is a social thing. But we don't look at it that way. We think of it as work. No. We don't think of it as socializing.
Yeah.
So when you're working Monday to Friday, Saturday morning, sometimes the odd Sunday, not often, but for me, the odd Sunday, and you're constantly talking to people and giving people your energy and your thoughts and your time to help those people. By the time Friday comes, you don't want to do anything because you're exhausted. Do you do much socializing? Do you have things that you do with friends, like on a regular basis, or are you one of those people who I'm becoming, who it gets to the end of the week and I'm just like, I just can't be bothered to do anything. Don't talk to me. I just want to have a bath.
I know. It's difficult. I think we have friends who we see, a lot of our friends are super accepting that we've got Archie and that we just can't do things all the time anymore. Some of our friends will say, we'll get, like, we've got both sets of grandparents here, super lucky that they'll have him overnight, especially now he sleeps. So they're like, oh, you know, my mum will say, oh, go off with Tom and have a date night, or, you know, see friends. And those who don't have children, it can be more difficult for them not to understand family dynamic. But we do try. Tom's part of Bedford Ath Rugby Club. I made friends with a lot of the girlfriends, the wags. Before most of us had children. Most of us have now had children. So that's quite nice on a Saturday. But not just the girls, the boys are super welcoming too. It can be intimidating going to a rugby club. You know, there's a big atmosphere, a big energy there, but everyone is so kind, and Archie runs around, God, everywhere, and everyone's like, oh, Archie's here, Archie. You know, someone's always got him. So we've got a really lovely supportive community there. I have my best friend Zoe, who I've known since I was 7. She's got a little boy as well, so we try and see each other on a Friday afternoon after I finished. Work-wise, I try to only have like one big meeting a day. Because of the shortened amount of time, and like you were saying, I had one day where I had like 3 clients. It was by the client 3, I was like, oh gosh, like, so
it's a lot.
It's been a long journey to learn and to get there. But it's difficult with people or friends who aren't entrepreneurs, and this isn't a bad thing, but you know, I've been there before in a corporate job, and you just don't understand that people have to work you know, can I see you Tuesday evening? No, sorry, that's literally my dedicated work evening, because I know by Monday I've caught up with the weekend, then I know what I've got the week ahead, what I need to prep and plan for. And just becoming a mum generally, you're not so kind of time, you haven't got lots of time,
as much time. I'm lucky.
Yes, exactly.
Is that it? I don't know.
I can't. Currency, no, I can't.
I know what you're trying to say, but I don't
know. So it's not always easy to fit everything in. And like we spoke about earlier, having 2 priorities, sometimes socializing does have to drop down, but I still, you know, voice notes are a godsave.
They are, aren't they?
They're absolute savior. You can just still catch up with people on voice note and text and social and whatnot. So,
I've got a friend of mine, Kelly, she lives in Manchester, and we probably once or twice a week go back and forth for like 4 or 5 voice notes, which are really long, like podcast episodes. But we love it. And it's like, if we don't hear from each other one week, we're like, oh no,
what's
we're
happened?
missing out. But we're so lucky that we've got that now.
Absolutely.
And with social media, like I was chatting to people at your event, and a couple of people were like, have I met you? No, I haven't met you. And I was
but
the
I know
same
you
with
from
them.
Instagram.
But isn't that, it's mental, but it's also so lovely. And I think with like family members and stuff as well, who maybe live in different countries, or, you know, when you're not in the same place. My parents are in Surrey. I'm obviously here. One of my brothers travels all the time with work, and it's like, it's nice to, you feel more connected to people.
Absolutely.
Which is, we've not always had that. And I think that's lovely. And you make a deal of having date nights with Tom, and I think that's so important.
It's so important. And again, very lucky that our parents are so, both sets of parents are so willing and accepting to have him and to understand that you need that time, because I think maybe they didn't when they were younger, and can kind of see actually it's so important to find that time, you know, and to do those things that you can't always bring Archie along. It's hard. You can't bring any child along to everything. You know, if we went to Harvester the other week for a nice little early tea, you know, and it's not amazing time together, but we are lucky that we both recognize we're both busy people. Tom plays rugby, I teach yoga as well as the business, and Tom trains, and you know, it's hard to find that time sometimes, but when we do, we make a point of it.
I can really resonate with that. My partner, he's a DJ, runs events. Our schedules are literally polar opposite. So Monday to Friday, I'm awake 5:30 most days, and I want to go to sleep by about 9 p.m. because I'm just done. I'm so tired. And then he does the school run on the days that we've got Santino. And so he's up a little bit later than me, but then the weekend comes, which is my time that I can just be like,
your chill time,
just chill. But he's usually got a gig on a Friday night or a Saturday night. So we have to really make that conscious effort, which we've got a lot better at, I'd say over the last like 6 months or so to a year, where we do have a date night, even if it's just once a month or like just something, but you have to make those conscious decisions to do that. Otherwise it just gets carried away.
And life just runs away with you before you know it. It's 6 months down the line and you're thinking, when did we actually spend quality time together?
Quality time, exactly.
Yeah, because even most evenings we have together, but I'll either be doing a bit of work, Tom will be replying, because the rugby club as well is it's not a 24-hour operation, but you know, people are there from 8 a.m. until 10 o'clock at night, so it can sometimes be unsociable hours. And Tom works a Saturday especially, he's either playing or working, so that can be quite tricky. But we are good at, and especially when Archie wasn't sleeping and I just needed a break. But you know, we did go to Bristol. Tom loves Bristol. We went there. He did some surfing, and it's things like
Bristol's
that.
Lovely.
Yeah, I love it there. So we got a hotel and we made a date night, and we went out for dinner, Sri Lankan dinner. Like, it was beautiful. And it is making time for that, because it can run away. Like before, I can't believe we're in mid-Feb.
I know.
We've been talking about this podcast since Jan.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it's here.
Yeah.
So
time is flying, isn't
it? It really flies.
You know, everyone was like, in January it's going so slowly. No. I was like, no, it's
flying.
What the hell are you talking about? It's going so quick.
It does. It really flies.
So quick.
And when you're an entrepreneur as well, I think you do feel like you could work all the hours under the sun, because you've always got the next thing going on, right? We've already spoken about, you've got something under wraps, I've got something under wraps. And so you can go, I'm just gonna, even if you go, I'll have a bath, but while I'm in the bath I'm gonna research this or research that, or
create content
Pinterest,
or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or get a Pinterest board out, and so your mind never stops. So I think, again, taking that conscious break, and something actually to touch on, when I was in my corporate job, you get a set amount of days holiday. Planned those meticulously, normally around Christmas holidays, so you get a bit of Christmas off, this, that and the other. Doesn't happen in business, does it?
No.
I learnt the hard
way. Have you learned have you felt a big kind of difference there?
It's like, I need to actually schedule time in, not to go some to go abroad, lovely, but some it's just like, actually I need a bit of time here or a bit of time there. Archie's nursery closes for a couple of weeks a year, so they're like stable ones, but otherwise, if you don't, you say yes, and you book everything in, and then before you know it, you're like, I don't know when my last break was. 100%. So important to schedule that in,
and setting boundaries. Absolutely. Isn't it? And I think I used to be more guilty of this. I've definitely got better, and that is something that will come with time, 100%. But you know, saying yes to everything, because when you are a business owner, you're relying on those clients, those situations, even like, for me, things like saying yes to a cover for a reformer session. And you say yes, and then you think that, it's all right, I'm just saying yes to that. But actually, when you've had a full day the day before, a full morning, full day the day after, having that cover maybe wasn't the best idea. And it's okay to not always put yourself forward for things for your own sanity and mental state.
Absolutely.
It's so important. I want to talk about your relationship with your parents. Because when we've chatted before, you mentioned how both of them have been quite big teachers for you in your life.
Yeah, massively.
So I'd love to know a little bit more about each of your parents. You've already mentioned the grafting coming from your dad, the creativity coming from your mum. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So I'm half Italian. So my dad was born here, but his brother and sister were born in Italy. So I have a big Italian roots as well.
Love it.
That's an interesting dynamic, actually, because traditionally, I wouldn't say nowadays, but traditionally, and kind of as I was growing up, there was always the norm of the man going out to work and providing, and the mum, the nonna, would be at home and cooking all day and doing all the domestic stuff, which is absolutely still a job in its own right, but that very much was how it was. Not so much nowadays, but growing up, I kind of did witness that. My mum worked for the same company as my dad, so that was quite nice, because actually I got to go to work a couple of times and see them. And then it got to a point where my mum didn't need to work, which was very nice for her, but she would provide so much. And this was a point where I was dancing 5-6 times a week, so I was like, needed to be chauffeured because I couldn't drive. So she was very much a provider of that. But my dad, it's been really nice actually on mat leave, spending a lot more time with my parents and having those pivotal conversations, because my dad is a businessman through and through, salesman at his former job. He was MD at one point, and he was like, I would never be where I was or where I am without your mum.
Wow.
Because actually my mum does all the background stuff. So she does the admin, she does the paperwork, she does the tax return, but not just that, she's a sounding board. And I thought, actually, that's a really interesting way, because I didn't see that, because mum would always be able to pick me up from school, you know, and actually, like, now Tom's with Archie, and so we're going to have a very different dynamic to my mum and dad. It was always mum that would pick me up, dad would work late. But actually what I didn't realize at the time when I was younger is mum was doing everything. She wasn't just...
You just didn't see it.
I just didn't see it, but she was the one who my dad would come home to and go, oh, this, that, and the other's happened, and she's the leader. Sorry, Dad. She's the leader in the family, and there is this traditional, sense of the man providing, but actually what the woman provides is sometimes so much more, because
100%.
they are the everything behind it. And Dad said that the other day, and I thought that's a really interesting way of looking at it, actually, is Dad's like, oh, I'm nothing without mum, because mum did this and mum did that, and mum was here and mum was there, and she could look after you, and it meant I could go on to that promotion.
How
and it
lovely
meant
that
I could
he's
do that.
Vocalizing that as well,
big
because
time.
a lot of men probably wouldn't vocalize that.
And I think he won't mind me saying this, he's always been he's been a very hardworking traditional man in those sense, but he has an emotional side to him, which is really lovely, and actually I adore. But since having Archie, it's like a whole nother level of dad, like being a nono himself. He's got a lot more open to those conversations. I'm not afraid to bring up controversial topics or those sorts of things. It's a discussion now, and so I think the relationship with my parents has grown to another level, which is really nice. But my dad's definitely got a little bit more soft since
I love that
Archie. Though I adore it. I adore it. He says, what does he say? I can't, oh sorry Dad, he'll listen to this. I think he says it's the fourth part of his life, the fourth chapter. So first chapter being a child, second chapter being growing up, like working life, third chapter having me, and now fourth chapter is being a nono.
That's so cute. I love that. So you've always been close with your parents.
Close. Super close. It's just a really lovely family unit who've been able to let me explore different things and try dance, try gymnastics, it was never a no. It was like, we'll find a way, you know, if you would like to do it, we'll give you the opportunity to do it, as long as you stick at it for a certain, if you really hate it, fine, but we'd like you to try it a bit more before you just flake out, kind of
100%.
thing.
And I think that's so important, isn't it?
It's definitely something we'll instill in Archie too.
I see my brother, I've got 2 nieces, and my brother's very much like that. And one of my nieces has tried like various different things, like gymnastics, tennis, dance classes. And like my brother's always like, she always wants to try new things all the time. And like, which is great. But my brother's like, just stick at that.
Just do one thing.
Just just stick at that. You're good at that. Carry on. And she enjoys doing that. But then there's always like more. But I think it can be easy, especially when they're kids.
It's important to not give up, but just try things for a little bit longer, because you never know, you might then fall into love with it.
Exactly. And you mentioned earlier that you are a single child, as you said.
Single child.
An only
Well, I hope
child.
I wasn't. No, an only child. Yes, yeah. Only child.
How was that growing up? Did you ever feel like you wanted brothers or sisters? Did you already have, friends and stuff around you all the time?
I knew from a young age that I was hard to have. That sounds hard. As in, my mum and dad went through struggles to have me. So I think I always had that respect of going fine. Like as soon as mum had me, she was like, I'm not going through any of that again. Like I've had a really long period of time for trying. We've got what we ultimately wanted. Like, thank you. Yeah. This is it. Yeah. So I don't have anything to compare it to because I haven't had brothers and sisters. I always had friends who had brothers and sisters fine, but I found myself just being more social from a friendship point of view and going to people's houses and I would go there, kind of mum would drop me off and I'd be in their family dynamic. So I think I don't know what it's like to have a brother or sister. I know what it's like to have a sister-in-law now, and that's really lovely. And seeing Tom and Sian's dynamic is lovely. And I think spoiler alert, Tom and I would like to have another baby at some point because I've seen that dynamic. Yeah. And it's no disrespect to my parents at all. I completely understand their decisions. But I found family in other ways. So I was part of a dance club, which I'm still part of all these years later. When I was 8, I'm now 33. Really? Yeah. So still part of it and still going. And I've literally grown up with them.
That's really cool.
We've got an adults class, which is great. And those adults were adults when I was a child, but then I've climbed up the classes and now I'm in that class and that's really lovely. So I found kind of a more family dynamic, I guess, in Dream On Dance Club, the club that I was still am part of. Yeah. So whilst I might have lacked in that at home, I got so much from other social environments.
And family is, family is whatever you want it to be.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be blood. Yeah. You can create, like you are doing, create community and relationships wherever you want. Yeah. Love that. Is there anything anyone doesn't know about you?
Oh, interesting.
That you might want to share?
I don't think so. I think I've had an interesting or pivotal journey, I think I'd say, over the last, when was lockdown? 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. Yeah. So I was in a very long relationship, 7.5 years. Okay. We broke up just before, we broke up in the summer pre-March COVID, but stayed together because we had a traveling trip planned. But it was a really nice closure, actually. Mm-hmm. We just ultimately became friends. Yeah. Difficult, horrible situation to be in, but it happened. Yeah. And I knew I couldn't see myself progressing the relationship any further. So that was a pivotal moment, I'd say, because then I had to find independence. I've always been independent, probably hyper independent, to be honest with you, but I had that safety blanket of that ex-boyfriend. Then COVID hit. I lived by myself. Mm-hmm. He'd just moved out. Okay. What the fuck?
How was that?
The best, but also super challenging. Okay. The best because I learned a lot about myself. So what we were talking about with personal development and growth, and I really had to learn myself because I had nothing else to do. I was furloughed very quickly. I didn't have that safety blanket of someone. I had friends, but they were living with their partners. Everyone around me had someone. Yeah. I couldn't move in with my mum because she was in the vulnerable category as a mum and dad. So I thought, no, I can't. It's not an option. Yeah. So I lived by myself for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And that was, it was challenging, but I knew from there that I loved routine because I thought, well, I've got nothing to do, but I've got everything to do. So what's going to happen here? Yeah. So I literally created myself a timetable. Yeah. I said, 8 till 9 breakfast, 9 till 10 reading, 10 till 11 bike ride, whatever it was. And then when you were allowed to do more things with other people, I'd meet up for bike rides and stuff and have that social aspect. But I think the lesson that, and this is what I mean, I don't think I've ever said this out loud or people might not know this about me, but I think I really learnt myself there. And I think that's been a pivotal moment in then the future relationship that I've now had and have with Tom is actually I learned so much about myself. I learned how I was and also what I valued in other people, because it would have been really easy for me to flit around relationship wise and just go who's single, meet other people, date loads and whatnot, when I was like, no, actually I know what I'm worth.
Good for you.
And I know what I value and I know what I'm looking for in a partner. And I think if COVID hadn't have happened, that would not have happened. I would have been like, I'm single, let's have fun, let's do whatever. Party. Exactly. And it just would have been an absolute car crash. And
it was a blessing be where I
was today. So although it was obviously a horrendous thing to happen to the world and lots of people, the time that I had completely by myself in isolation taught me so much. And that's I think kind of my journey of where I am today.
Yeah. Wow, that's so powerful. My lockdown experience was pretty similar.
Really?
I lived on my own. I was single.
Yeah.
I think I was on some dating apps or something, but just not doing anything. No. And I actually properly launched my business in lockdown. Wow. And that had come off the back of losing a past income in lockdown. And for me, it was the best time. Yeah. And I'm always mindful of speaking about it in that way, because I know it was such an awful time for so many people. And, it was. But I always say, whenever you're faced in any situation like that, as an example, a challenging situation, there's two types of people, and one person will thrive and the other will survive. Yeah. And I 100%, as did you, thrived in that situation. And look what's come from that. Yeah. And that's amazing. So your personal development journey massively kicked off properly in then.
Didn't depend on anyone else, completely by myself. Couldn't even have the home comforts of going, just move in with mum and dad. None of that. It was like, I knew I had the house to pay for by myself, and that was fine from the income I was on. Then I got furloughed. Then it was like, okay, right, now we need, and that was a kind of whole financial journey in itself, which a lot of people don't talk about. But I think it just majorly made me realize a lot of things about myself, because it gave me the time, and we've spoken about this, time and headspace, so important to reflect, because you can just crack on all the time. Yeah. Before you know it, 2 years have gone, 3 years have gone, 4 years have gone, whatever. If you take the time to reflect and make that space to think about new things, then better things arrive.
Always. And how long after that did you meet Tom?
We met, so lockdown was March. So my ex-partner had moved out in January. Because we were amicable, it's like, I'm a nice person. I didn't just because we ended amicably. I didn't want to say, right, you just need to move out.
Just go.
See you later. Go and find. I don't even know where you're going to live. You don't know where you're going to live by. So we went on this amazing trip, and really, really grateful for it. New Zealand, Singapore, Australia, Tasmania, beautiful trip. Said our goodbyes. I want to say end of Jan.
Okay.
Came back from traveling, and he'd moved out. Then lockdown happened in March. Tom and I started talking in the summer. We had mutual friends. We went to the same gym, so that's how we know each other. And then, because we couldn't do anything else, go to a nice restaurant. Do you want to go for a walk around Priory?
That was the thing, wasn't it? Should we go for a walk?
Should we go for a walk?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we did. I met him in the summer, and then for both our reasons, it wasn't quite the right timing. I think I wasn't ready to properly, because I'd had that growth state of going, I can do this on my own. Yeah. Look how independent I am. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Yeah. I was like, I don't need a man. So we put a pause on it from both sides.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, lovely little story, so I'll tell it.
Yeah.
At Christmas, my best friend Sophie had just gone through a divorce, and she just moved on to, I won't say her address, I was just about to disclose where she lives. She moved to the same area where Tom was living. Yeah. And I helped her move in, move all her stuff from her previous house into this house. Yeah. But her road is permitted, so I couldn't park on her road because I'd get a ticket. Right. So I parked on Tom's road. Okay. Right outside Tom's house.
Did you know it was his road?
I knew roughly where he lived, but I didn't know exactly where he lived. So I thought,
that's the universe doing
its thing. Okay, so Tom lives here, fine. And then at the time, Tom was working for England Rugby. Yeah. Had a massive England Rugby van, branded, who comes flying in. Literally, if you're watching, I was parked here. Yeah. I'd literally just pulled in. Tom literally pulled in here.
Oh,
I was
like,
oh God. You get that feeling of, I haven't spoken to you, seen you in 5 months. This is...
Oh my God.
Okay, how do I say hello? So go out the car. Hello, how are you? All the nice small talk. What are you doing? Helping Sophie move in.
What have you been up to?
Da, 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 da. Oh, that's nice of you. Do you need any help? No, we're good. Literally, I had the last box in my hand.
Oh my God.
I was like, no, we're fine. We're going to have a cup of tea and then I'm going to go home. Okay, fine. Well, nice to see you. Yeah, you too. Said hello to his dogs.
That's it.
Great. Sure.
Yeah.
Get home. Little days later. I think we didn't meet at the right time. Do you want to maybe see each other again? And then literally the rest is history.
Wow.
So yeah, a bit of fate, serendipity for sure.
100. That's I'm a massive believer, as you know, in all of that stuff. Yeah. And that is literally the universe doing its thing. Greg, who I'm with now, later, when we first started getting together and chatting and stuff, and we realised there had been so many occasions where we'd been in the same, I used to work in a club in London, and he was when I was working there, he was in the club, probably on like 4 or 5 events that I was working, but didn't once meet him. He was in another relationship at the time, wasn't the right time.
Isn't it wild?
And it's mad how things like that happen.
Is. In the back of my mind, he doesn't actually know this.
Yeah.
In the back of my mind, I always thought, oh, he's the one that got away.
Really?
Like I was always like, because he was older, I needed someone older at the time.
Yeah. What's the age gap between you guys?
So I'm going to be 33 this year. Tom's 39.
Okay,
so 6 years difference.
Yeah.
He had his own house.
Yeah.
Putting it nice, he had his shit together.
Yeah.
A lot of the boys I was dating
always
before
attractive.
Tom didn't.
Yeah.
No offense.
Yeah.
He was just older and he had dogs and I love dogs and like all this stuff. And I was like, oh, that was a shame. But I just didn't feel like I could reach out and be like, sorry, what are you doing? Didn't know if he was single either. Like I just had no idea. We just had no contact for months. I thought, I don't really like, I just didn't think it was a thing. And then as I saw him, it was that feeling, you know, when you get that feeling in your stomach. And I was like, I'm actually really nervous to say hello. And it's not because it's awkward. It's because I'm a bit nervous. And then when I got home and he'd messaged me, I was like,
oh my God.
Okay.
And you were both clearly on the same page.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But we needed that time. We've both said it since. We both said, you know, it wouldn't have worked because it was that weird lockdown phase where it was like in and out.
Yeah.
I would have been like, oh, just move in with you just because you feel a bit lonely or whatever. And I was like, it just would not have. It wouldn't have worked. No, it wouldn't have worked. So yeah, I'm really pleased.
Wow, what a beautiful
Thank
story.
you.
And now you're literally
got a baby
with another one probably coming on the way.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Don't know when I'm going to fit that in, but
you'll make it
When's
work.
it going to go in the schedule?
Do you know what? It will happen when you're not expecting it to happen. It always does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Want to talk about some fears that you might have?
Yeah.
Is there anything in your life which, again, can be business related or not? I know in our previous episode, we spoke a bit about limiting beliefs. We touched on fears a little bit. But if you were to take it away from business, what would you say your biggest fears are in life?
I think failure is a big one. I know we spoke about failure in the last podcast. I think things happen. Failure is always going to happen, but and how you can kind of learn from that. But I think the fear of failure is still really there for me. Yeah. Especially being an entrepreneur. I just had a power actually with a client and we were talking about the fact that when you're in a corporate role, you have regular check-ins, right? So like 3 months, 6 months reviews, whatever that might look like. My colleagues would hate that. Oh God, it's PDR season. Yeah. I'd be like, yay, tell me all the things I can do to get better. Like I literally genuinely looked forward to them because I was like, I need that check-in to be like, yeah, you're on the right track. Yeah. But then I was always looking for the next thing, the next promotion, the next project, whatever it might be. And when you're self-employed, you don't have that. So there's a fear of failure of going, I think I'm getting things right. I absolutely have no idea if I am. Yeah. From a client perspective, yes, I've got a nice stable client list now. But if I tweak or I change or I think I want to go in another direction, what the hell does that look like? And there's a massive risk of failure. So there's a few side projects I'm working on, which I won't delve into, but there is that fear of going, what if it doesn't work? I've got something magic now. But that's not going to be forever. Yeah. As you know, entrepreneurs, next thing. Yeah. What if the next thing is not quite there? Yeah. And it's not a fear of publicly. Like, I'll publicly say when things don't work out. Like Danny was saying on the last podcast, you know, pivot and learn from them and everything. But it is that fear of going, oh God, what if it doesn't work? And what if then my authenticity slips because it's not the right direction, or
you spiral a little bit.
Yeah. So and going back to imposter syndrome, I think is that's the fear of imposter syndrome growing is huge. Yeah. Not just from business, but from being a parent as well. Yeah. Because that is not a job, but you know, it is. It is. And fear of going, are we teaching Archie the right ways? And I had a lovely upbringing and loved my childhood. So did Tom. So we look to our parents for guidance and advice, but also, putting it politely, we're 30 years on from that. So what does that look like now? We've got social media. There's more screen time. There's more this, more that. And it is a bit of going, I think we're doing the right thing. And Archie's very happy and everyone tells us how happy he is. So you do feel like you're doing a good job. But the fear of him growing up and what he's going to experience is quite high.
How do you manage that? You know, you just mentioned about screen time and stuff like that. I was having a conversation with a previous guest not long ago about how life is just so different for children now compared to when we grew up. Yeah. You know, we were outdoors, we were going on the road, playing on our scooters and like stuff like that. And I've tried so hard with my stepson to like be like, and Greg's the same. We've both tried really hard to, and we still do continue to let's go for a bike ride. Let's go to the park. Let's go out. Let's do this. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And we will do it. But ultimately, he just wants to play his iPad, or watch something on TV.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of our relationship, I was very much like, this isn't okay. Like, we can't do this. We need to make sure that he's doing this, this, and this. And then the more conversations I have with people, the more I've learned that is just how life is at the moment. And it is different to what we were used to and what we did.
Yeah.
So you can only do so much and try so much, and you want them to be enjoying their life. I don't want to be forcing him to be, do you know what I mean? And that's something I'm definitely navigating. And when I go on to when me and Greg have our own children, that's something I'm, thinking about already. Like, how do you manage that? So I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
So Tom's from a very active background, played professional rugby and now amateur rugby.
Yeah.
His dad played for Harlequin. So
we've
got a big rugby family going on.
Yeah.
Christine, Tom's mum, taught PE.
Okay.
She's trampoline champion.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Sean was a professional dancer. So from that side of the family, super active. My side of the family, active, but more like bike rides, like you were saying, bike rides, walks in the woods, like all that kind of stuff.
Yoga.
Dance, yoga.
Yeah.
So Archie's going to grow up in an active household.
Yeah.
But how much he wants to do that, I don't know. It's conversations of, do we take him to rugby tots? Because he can start in 4 months' time.
Yeah.
I'm like, because it's a big passion of you and your dad. And you were both very good, clearly. So, I'm not saying he's going to be a professional rugby player, but he looks up to Tom so much. Like, you can, daddy. Like, you can just, it's lovely to see. And so
nice.
I want him to do things that Tom likes because I feel like they'll get the same out of it.
Yeah.
Bringing technology into it's very difficult. Even when so I'm mentoring a girl at Bedford Girls' School at the moment. She's 16, 17. And she's talking about finding it hard to revise because she's constantly on TikTok. And I'm sat there going, oh God, but you need to get grades, right? Yeah, I know. I know what grades I need to get to university.
Yeah.
But I just can't stop it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's real alien territory to me.
Yeah.
I know the addiction of social media.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I'm on Instagram a lot.
Yeah.
But it is navigating, because also what I don't want to happen is for Archie to get to school and not know how to work these things and be behind because technology is such a part of school life. So when you go to schools and open days and whatever, I've not been, but I've heard. We've all got iPads in the classroom.
Which it wasn't like for us. That's totally new for us.
So it's a completely new thing to navigate. We do restrict screen time. But he's a super young age, so he can't really say that.
Yeah, he's got no choice.
If we go on a long journey, Cornwall, Bristol, we drive to France in the summer.
Yeah.
I need an iPad
Different
for
story.
all of our sanity.
Yeah.
But we go out for dinner. We don't take screens. We play. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
When he's screaming and everyone's looking, but he's bored. 40 minutes at a table, not enjoyable. So I take him for a walk around the restaurant. We play with toys. We do whatever we need to do. But I do understand the absolute need for it at certain times. It does terrify me.
It is scary.
Really scary.
We went out for dinner one day. I think it was like just after Christmas. It must have been like the 28th or something. And it was the first time ever in my life where I've been like, don't forget the iPad. Because I
can't do it.
My brain was like, I'd been working a lot in December, as we'd spoken about before. December burnout was a thing, which we're not promoting, but it's definitely a thing.
It's a lesson.
It's a lesson, 100%. So I was just like, I just want to go and enjoy my roast dinner, whatever it was I was having. And I don't want to play with the crayons. I don't want to, I'm just being real. I just don't want to, I don't have the brain capacity to do that right now. And it was the first time I'd ever, like I'm normally like, and Greg is also like, we're not bringing the iPad. But that was the first time where I was like, I actually need that iPad today because I need to enjoy myself and just relax.
And I think that's an important point actually, is that I think there's, with being entrepreneurs, there's such an expectation of us to work so hard all of the time. So then when you do flip into parent mode, you're like, but I've just had like the busiest day ever and I just don't have the capacity to completely provide. But I heard something on a podcast the other day. It was Ladies That Launch with Rochelle Humes. She's just launched it.
Really I thought you posted about that.
Definitely listen to it. I can't remember the guest she was speaking to, but she was talking about being a mum and she said, you know what, one day you can be the best CEO in the world, or the best version of a CEO for you, and you might not be the best mum that day, like the highest. You're always going to provide for your children, but yesterday, take for example, loved yesterday, ran an amazing event, super proud of it, had to switch into mum mode. Did I take Archie swimming? No. I did not have the mental capacity.
No.
So we went home, we walked Fleur, We came home. We still had a nice evening. Yeah. But I wasn't like, we're going to do all the things today and I'm going to be a really fun mum.
Yeah.
It was like, we're going to pick you up from my mum and dad's, have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Tom's parents, have a cup of tea. And then we're going to come home. I actually need to go to Tesco. So we're all going to go to Tesco.
Yeah.
And still do things together. But I wasn't like, let's go to the park. Let's do all the fun things.
Which you normally would.
Which we normally do. Yeah. Because I had exerted so much energy in the business that day. Yeah. So, and I think that's a fair comment. And I really resonated with it. Was going, actually, we're in a world where we're expected to be 100% at everything. Yeah. Actually, it's not reality at all. We need to give and find that balance fine. Yeah. But I couldn't take him yesterday. No. I was like, I need to get home and put you to bed.
Yeah. And that's it.
Stock of life.
It's okay to say not today.
Yeah.
Now and then, you know? Yeah. It's not a regular thing.
No.
And I think as long as a parent, you know that you're doing it most of the time and you're always doing your best, you've got to take those times. If you had taken him swimming yesterday,
we would have fallen out.
It would have been a disaster.
He would have crawled into a locker. I would have shouted at him. Yeah.
It would have just been
no
good.
Spent 10 minutes in the pool.
Yeah.
Get out.
You'd be both drowning. It just would not be good. No. So yeah, I think that's really important to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to throw you in the deep end here a little bit with the final question.
Yeah.
Is there a piece of advice that you've ever been given, which you can remember, which has been a life-changing piece of advice that you've taken with you?
Yeah.
That was a very quick answer.
Yeah, straight away. And
it
comes from Tom, and we touched on it in the last podcast, actually. It was when, it's a bit controversial again, but from it can be anything in life, is when I'm a person who goes above and beyond a lot, but when it's for someone else and you're not getting that mutual respect, don't give it back. Don't give your all to something or someone if you've not got it back. If you're getting it back, relationship-wise, partnership-wise, family, 1,000%. But I was working silly hours and Sunday nights and missing out on life. And I think that's an important part. Is Tom taught me, sorry, massive shout out to Tom this episode, but he's a massive he's a massive support system to me and to the family, and it's just taking stock of things every so often and going, if that's not working for you, don't worry about it. And friendships too. I had a very close friend to me, and then I met Tom, and my priorities kind of changed because I was in a new relationship and this and that. And I still felt like I was very much there for her, but the dynamic changed because I wasn't on a beck and call where I was before. Yeah. And I was devastated. It was worse than a breakup. It was worse, sorry to the ex-boyfriend, but it was worse than that. I had a real mourning period, real grieving period of going, okay, we're not friends anymore. Yeah. On her terms. Okay, sure. Real shocking moment for me. And then Tom's like, but were you getting that back? Yeah. And I was like, no.
Yeah. I can relate to that so much.
On reflection, no. Yeah. And we're talking a lifelong friendship here. And it was so difficult. Yeah. And I still find it difficult on days. And you know, there are people that have businesses now that are in the same friendship circles, and so our businesses are starting to connect, and so it's starting to come back a little bit in my mind. But Tom, he's always said this: if you're not going to give, if you're giving and giving and giving, but you're not getting anything, or you know, very very minimal, from a workplace, from a relationship, from a friendship, stop. And it's difficult because I have been a people pleaser for a long time, and it's taken a long time to get over that. And I feel like I'm in a good place with it now, but it was a real realization and wake up of going, actually, I didn't get much for a few years. What's going on?
I deserve
here?
More than that.
Yeah. And it was a real hard lesson to learn from both a friendship and a workplace perspective, but one that's really stuck with me from day one.
That's a really, really powerful bit of advice, and I really can resonate with that. We have so many similarities. As we're talking.
I'm looking at you like, are we twins?
Are we twins? You're going to Lebanon. This is really weird.
Girls trip to Lebanon.
Literally though, you know, when you feel like in alignment with somebody. But I had a very similar experience with a friend, lifelong friend. Won't go into the ins and outs, but pretty much exactly the same situation. Wasn't because of my new relationship. It was because I couldn't do something. And she didn't like it, despite her knowing that I was very upset by the fact that I couldn't do this thing. And I made it very clear that I tried my best to do what I could, and it wasn't physically possible as a human being to do this thing that I couldn't do. I'm trying to be really like not say what it is.
You're fine.
And she just blocked me. Yeah. She blocked me on Instagram, and that was 2 years ago, maybe more than that. And at the time I was distraught. I was literally like, what? And I was so angry because I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, someone who I've been friends with since I was literally like 11 up until I was 32, 33. Someone who I had envisioned being a bridesmaid at my wedding, that kind of level of friendship.
I was maid of honor and I got maid of honored.
Wow. Yeah.
Big moment.
Yeah. But you know, when you're like, what the fuck? Like if it's that easy for you to do, what even was that?
Yeah.
And then you start looking back and start thinking, what the fuck have I been doing this whole time? And definitely in terms of like, if you're always feeling like you're being there for somebody and they're not giving that back, friendship, relationship, workplace, whatever, there's a massive problem there.
Yeah.
And if they don't like the fact that you're doing what makes you happy and you're not intentionally hurting the other thing or the other person, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
And I actually think a friendship breakup is worse than
oh my God, so much worse.
Because you have that attachment.
And
a much
a longer
lifelong, lifelong attachment.
The friend in question I was friends with again since I was 7. So really long time of our lives, and you know, relationships I'd had 2.5 years, 7.5 years. This was so much worse, and it made me question myself so much more, and real devastating, and very close to. I lost an entire friendship circle. Yeah. And I know that people have gone on in that friendship circle to have more children, have children, get married. I've not been involved in any of that because it was such a harsh breakup. Yeah. And that's sad. Yeah. But I see people and go, oh, I'm happy for you. That's great. It's not part of my life. It doesn't serve me anymore.
No, exactly. And you've got to just send those people kindness and love.
Absolutely.
I'm very much like, as much as it upset me and angered me at the time, I was quite quick, luckily, because of the work I've done on myself. I think that must be the reason why. Totally. You know, I was very quick to be like, okay, well, if this friendship is meant to be, it will come back around.
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't come back around, it's run its course, and that's cool.
And that's what I've very much got to that point as well, and just sending nothing but love and kindness. And I know it sounds really backwards because she really hurt me, and I was in a bad place with it for a very long time. And it still does come up here and there because she was such a big part of my life for so long. But you just go, okay, well, sending you the best. I hope that everything's good. You know, I've had a little boy since as well.
Exactly.
That's the difference, you know. You think,
that's it. Exactly.
My son and her nephew go to the same nursery. Okay. And I've seen the sister-in-law at times, and it is a bit like, hey, hi, you okay?
Yeah, not really sure how to be.
Can we talk? Do we talk? But we do. We just say, hi, how are you? Because we haven't got a problem with each other.
Well, exactly.
So we've spoken, but it is a case of going, okay, well, send her my love. Yeah. You know, and just saying that. And that's truly how I feel. And like you said, doing the work is pivotal to that.
Yeah. And I think, just to kind of round that off, I think it's really important to remember that when people do behave in certain ways, whatever the situation is, if they're coming at you from a place of real negativity like that, it's their own issues that they're dealing with. And I always, you know, I've witnessed other situations in my life where I've seen it, where I've been like, I just want them to be happier. Yeah. Because if they were happy, they wouldn't treat you in that way.
Absolutely.
And that's, as long as we can remember that, then we're winning.
And we're sweet.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Second episode. Yeah. Might have to get you on for a third. see what we can do next. But
from Lebanon.
So stop it.
Manifesto.
Oh my God. Right. You heard it here first, guys. From Lebanon. It's going to happen. Oh my God. I'm so excited. Where can people find you?
So my business handles are The Little Marketing Co. and The Little Yoga Co. on Instagram.
Amazing. Website, anything?
I've got a website for marketing.
Go on.
So www.thelittlemarketingco.org.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You,
and I will look forward to our Lebanese chat.
I can't wait.
Over some Lebanese food.
Oh, yes, please.
Let's do it. Amazing. Thank you guys for listening, for watching. Please make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, share, do all the things to support. I would be so grateful. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you.